This is a very special episode of Chattel Fixture's PEI Real Estate Podcast when I found out that Kelly Lantz was joining forces with Kris and Catherine Fournier and the Know PEI team at Remax Charlottetown. I felt this surge of excitement. I was inspired and excited to see these forces combine and to be able to watch it so closely with my daily interactions with Catherine and Kris. But beyond my personal excitement, it is surely one of the big moves of 2023 in the PEI real estate business. Your average Islander may not know what a big deal this is in the real estate world, but within this community, it is huge knowing that some of the biggest players in the industry are joining forces. I think the questions on many of the other realtors on PEI mind is what happens next? What are the combined forces of Kris Fournier team and Kelly Lantz going to do to change the real estate landscape on PEI? Welcome, Kris, Catherine, and Kelly.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I mean, right off the bat, I know there are many questions that I get just talking to other realtors and stuff about what's going on and why this happened. And the biggest one is what prompted the move. Maybe I'll start with you, Kelly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't an easy decision, and it wasn't a quick decision. So it kind of just grew organically. I've done business with Kris and Catherine many times over the years, and every exchange has always been excellent, and I really like the way they work. Mm-hmm. So I was at Century 21 for 15 years, which is a long time to be anywhere. And just like within my family, my youngest is graduating high school this year, and so my duties as far as sports teams and volunteering and all that stuff, I'm going to have a lot of free time next year. So I feel like I want to ramp things up in my business. Anyway, so I was doing a deal with Kris this year, and I just got to thinking I really like working with these guys. I like working with Shannon.
Yes.
Anyway, so we had a few conversations in person, and then we just decided to go for it.
Oh, that's great. You mentioned Shannon, and maybe now's a good time to mention it. So Shannon is also on the team, not here presently. Can you mention what Shannon's role is? I mean, we'll get to you guys in a second. But.
Well, as you know, before this podcast started, Catherine just got a call from the school that the little fella has a sore belly. So Shannon's now going to get him at the school. Yeah. So poor Shannon, you never know what she's going to do.
Many hats
in the run of a day.
Yeah.
It's turned into a weekend little project that she works for us as well to help organize that business. And she's great. She's been with me forever since I started real estate. Followed her and her children, for the last 8 years in sports and everything else. And it's a good fit for us. It's like Kelly and myself and Catherine. Shannon's a good fit because if she has to go to a hockey tournament, she works from her phone for a day, right? Yeah. If we need her in an evening, she's there, right? So it's just a good fit. It's great to have a full-time assistant that everything gets answered promptly. And we all gel, which is great.
Yeah, I bumped into her yesterday in the office, and right off the bat, she's like, okay, make sure you ask them about the new website. And she was just super on it. And the new branding as well. She mentioned specifically the little house in the brand. So, I mean, we can come around to all that. But getting back to this, what prompted the move, I guess just, heading over to you, Kris and Catherine, you have one of the biggest real estate teams in Atlantic Canada in terms of the business you're doing. But compared to these other teams, you've just had 2 realtors, while some of these others that I've seen have had a dozen or more on the team. So what made you want to expand?
I think it just felt right. Whatever I've done in life, whether it was going back and rewriting my real estate license, 9 years ago and going, I did write my real estate license when I was 18, but I just felt I was too young to work at it. So I never worked at it. Right. And then you get married. And so I've always had that desire to sell properties. I was the friend that everybody went to when they wanted to buy land, when they wanted to buy an apartment building, when they wanted to buy whatever. So I did all the legwork for all my buddies and friends and found their investment properties and everything else. So then finally, when I was trying to wrap up my construction career, that's when I said to my wife, I'm going to go back and take my license. And it definitely has evolved. Since, it's I've never dreamt that we would be at the level where we're at now. If someone asked me,
Right.
8-9 years ago.
I mean, just getting this right, it was mostly laying ceramic tile that you were doing, right?
Yeah, it was construction.
Okay.
I did a flooring business. I did always flip properties,
Oh, okay.
buy properties, subdivide, just different things like that. So I always had the real estate interest there.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to pay the light bill and groceries, it was flooring. That
Yeah.
I did do a lot of hours a week, and we had it was mainly like an installation company, and I've had guys that worked for me for 15, 16 years.
Oh, right.
And lucky enough, they continued on with that, so I'm still friends with them today.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I mean, now that you're together, working together, like, can you paint a picture of what's next? Like, what is this combined forces? What does it mean? Where is it going?
I may start with this. I think it's just starting to really come together in my mind. We work so well on showings, different things like that. Like last night, I had a meeting at 7. Catherine was at the soccer field. I was doing a home inspection. Got on the phone to Kelly. Can you come finish this home inspection for me?
Mhm.
Because I have to be somewhere else. No problem.
Mhm.
She was there within 5 minutes. Wasn't far from her home.
Mhm.
It's to service the clients,
Mhm.
right? So that's our whole goal, is to keep everybody happy, service our clients.
Mhm.
And Friday night we had a listing. It was an elderly gentleman. Catherine had to volunteer at the daycare for an hour. I had to take the gentleman for supper. We had a showing request. Kelly did it.
Mhm.
So it just works out that we fill in for each other, so
Mhm.
nothing ever gets missed.
Mhm.
And two, I think him and I, we've always been, okay, if we take on your listing, we're going to work with you. Well, someone will always show your house. No
Mhm.
one, you're never going to get a call that says, oh, well, nobody can show your house. One of us will. Well,
Mhm.
now one of the 3 of us will. And
Mhm.
he likes to go to Florida for a little bit. So then I'm running for the 2 of us, but now I'll have Kelly to help, which
Mhm.
is, I'm really looking forward to this winter to have Kelly's help. But I think it's just more of so that there's more life balance. It's hard enough to balance the real estate and, you're always on. You always have to answer your phone. You always have to be available. And it's hard enough to do that. But then you throw in, kids and everything else into the mix. And you need to find that balance. But having to be able to throw off on one another, it gives
Mhm.
us the ability to better, just decipher what our time is going to be spent doing.
Right. How about
Yeah.
for you, Kelly? I mean,
Yep, and I think it will let me, I've always been fairly busy, and every year I get a little busier, which is good.
mhm.
But having Shannon and these guys,
Mhm.
I've never had an admin assistant. I've always done my own stuff.
Mhm.
But it will help me free up my time to be in front of the clients more. So I do
Mhm.
think I can actually increase my business quite a bit with Kris and Catherine. So
Right.
that's the goal.
So were you operating as a solo agent that
Yep.
whole time?
Yep.
Wow.
Well, my mother-in-law, Charlotte Lantz, she sold real estate when I first started.
Okay.
So I was with her. She taught me the ropes for about 4 years,
Okay.
and then she retired. But since then I've been on my own.
On your own. Wow. So no assistant. So you've been handling all the administrative stuff too.
Yeah.
So now you'll be able to focus in on these other aspects, lean in a little bit harder on that,
Exactly. Yes.
and then Shannon can take on some of those duties.
Yes, exactly. She already has. When I walked into their office, it's the most organized thing. You probably have seen it.
Oh yeah.
The wall, the files. It's so impressive. And anywhere you are, I call Shannon. You know what I mean? I'm on the road. Can you help me with this or do this? And I did have that in some degree in my previous job, but
Yeah.
it's just a lot extra with Shannon. So it's very helpful.
Right. So that'd be a big thing, and then the collaborative nature, you being comfortable working together.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool to watch.
It is hard, as we all have them clients who fly in.
Yeah.
I had one last Friday from Oakville, and you're married to them from 10 in the morning till 3. So if an amendment has to be done or whatever, you can be on the phone to any of us, and nothing gets missed like that. Shannon goes over the contracts every morning to see what deletions have to be done or whatever, and
Mhm.
it just works, and it just seems to be getting better and more organized all the time.
Mhm. Wow. Pretty cool. It's
It
pretty
is.
cool. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of I have my answers to this question, but maybe I'd be curious why Remax Charlottetown. I mean, obviously this, so much of it is you as the team, but why are you with Remax Charlottetown? Why Remax Charlottetown? Anyone
want me to
wanna
start?
take
You
that?
can start.
Okay.
You-
Yeah, Kris-
You love
Kris will start.
Remax.
I'm a big Remax person. So I did a pile of research when I decided. That's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
When I decided to get into real estate, and everything just kept leaning me. It was down to 2 brokerages when I wrote my license, and I said that Remax was one of them. And the more you learn about Remax, it's one of the top 5 franchises in the world. They sell a home, every 25 seconds or whatever it is. I've been to see the power of it. We're in 130 countries or something like that. The referral business is huge. Just in the last 2 days, I've gotten 2 more referrals coming in from clients in other provinces in Canada. So if you want to build a strong relocation business, it's easier at Remax for sure because of it's so global, right? I have a buddy going to buy a house in Naples, Florida, so I just got a hold of an agent there. Here's your referral. Here's who you should deal with down there. So that's a big part of why I'm at Remax. Also, Mary Jane, she's been tremendous to us over the years. I remember writing my license, and she texted me the night before, and she said, "You got this. You'll ace that test tomorrow morning." And I seen the text come in, and I looked at it, and said to my wife, I said, "I guess I'm going to Remax," because it only took 10 seconds out of Mary Jane's night, but it just shows how much she cares about her people.
Yeah.
Whenever you do any kind of dealing with her, your family is her family, and that's important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, obviously I went to Remax because he was at Remax. But touching on what he said, when you go to these big conferences and you meet people and you realize how big the name is and how much power is behind the name. Even I had my car wrapped last summer, and everybody, oh yeah, you have that. Like everybody knew that it was mine and that it's because it had the big Remax balloon on the side. So it's just there's a lot of recognition with that. So
yeah, most trusted brand in real estate in Canada for the last 14 years. I think that has to mean something. I think the number one reason someone chooses a realtor is trust. So yeah, that's got to count for something. Kelly, anything you want to add? I mean, you were mainly joining the team, but how are you adjusting to Remax so far? Do you have any comments about the brand or anything like that?
Yeah, no, everything Kris said, I agree. And I hadn't looked into it in great detail. Like, obviously, I was, my decision was based on these guys and Mary Jane for sure. So the brand was kind of secondary to me at first. I was more interested in working with these guys and Mary Jane, because I've done lots of deals with her in the past where we've crossed paths and we've had to, and never once have ever had a problem with her. She's so good and loyal and ethical, which I love. But since then, like, Kris and Mary Jane have given me lots of like the Remax information and the platforms and everything, and it's really, really good, and I'm super impressed.
Yeah, good.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I'm still super new to this game in so many ways, and I remember when I discovered Remax, it was like, at first it was actually Greg Rivardi was on the podcast. He's like, you really should think about Remax. And I started going down the rabbit hole online. And then the more I learned, the more I was like, whoa. And then I met MJ, and it was like, okay, this is a person that I can work with. And I remember I had this, it was like an epiphany hitting me, kind of like, whoa, okay, Remax. Anyway, people in the audience, this may not be as relevant to them, but I'm sorry, but it means a lot to me.
You don't realize it till you get to a big event as well. And I hope everyone at our office gets to go to an R4 in Vegas at some time, to be in a room with 10,000 Remax agents and they just bring Bon Jovi in just to sing for us, right? Yeah. That's how global and big this brand is. And, not that would matter to anyone selling their home, but it certainly keeps your agents happy and trained and on top of the market. They're on top of everything all the time, from advertising.
Yeah, and I do find that it, like, even just like the whole business structure and everything, it attracts people that are serious about it and kind of repels people that are, like, in terms of realtors, it's not the best place to be if you're not that serious about your work. I find most people who are doing it there full time.
And it has to work for you, whatever works for you is the best thing for everybody. Remax works for us.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of great brokerages on PEI, that's for sure. I mean, okay, get more into the meat of it though. Like, how do you do it? And I mean this for all three of you, because how busy you are, but not busy isn't the right word because I see you around. You don't seem busy. You're some of the hardest working people I've ever met, but somehow you always have time to be present. I'm just coming to know you, Kelly, but you always seem to have time to answer questions and stay on top of things and respond to things quickly. Yet there's just so much going on. I'm sure each of you manage this differently, but how the heck? Like how is this possible? Yeah.
Shannon. Shannon keeps us all
Common
organized.
denominator.
No, but I mean, you like for you, Kelly, you had, a really big business working as a solo realtor. I mean, yeah, how? I mean, it's such a big question, I know, but like, how do you keep it organized? How do you keep all these clients happy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a full-time job, but
Yep.
like honestly, I found over the years, I was like busier when I first started because I didn't know what I was doing as much. So
Right.
I was not as organized now, and I just feel like now, like all of my deals, not all, usually fairly smooth. And I know Kris and I and Catherine all agree, like, we like our deals with no drama. So I try and see what might be an issue before it happens, right? I mean, there's always things that come up as a surprise every single time, but after so many years, you kind of know how to resolve the problem before it gets to be something major. So, like, I could be busier. That's why I'm here, because I want to be busier too.
Absolutely. Right.
I agree with Kelly. It's to be proactive. I know we just done a 3-chain deal with Kelly on the first link of the chain there just not that long ago.
Right.
So it's like, okay, home inspections. And when you're going to do your walkthrough, make sure oil tanks are filled, because we had 3 homes closing in one day, right? So and she was the first link, so we had to make sure she was ready with her people to do the walkthrough, and then the second people, I made sure they had their walkthrough done at 8 in the morning, so then their money was at the lawyer to close, and then we done the third link of the chain late in the afternoon. But
Right.
it's just being proactive. You just have to know what's coming tomorrow, what's coming the next week, and okay, did we get all this done? Are all the pieces of the puzzle in place? And like Kelly says, most of the time it's good. You deal with the unknown that day, but you know, as long as everyone knows, house has to be cleaned, oil tanks filled, deposits have to be picked up early that day.
Yeah, you can get it down to a pretty good system, right? You kind of know what to expect and stuff. So that makes, like, I know when I first started, I felt a little more frenzy all the time. And I don't know if, like, I think honestly texting has taken a little bit of the edge off. My phone doesn't ring as much, but I'll get lots of texts all the time. But I find that an easier way to communicate with people. Like back before, this is like 10 years ago, I was on the phone a lot more. But now, I can just answer questions and then get on the phone when you need to.
And anything else anyone wants to add to that? Because I feel like I still don't know the full secret. Okay, this is what I interpreted as the answer there, which is be really good and focused and know the steps through practice of doing a lot to be able to kind of efficiently tick off the boxes of what needs to get done next. That's how I kind of interpret that. But yeah. You were leaning in there, Catherine. Do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just, I mean, it's great to, to have your organization systems and everything like that. But, and when I last summer, we went and we spoke to the new realtor class. And, one of the biggest things that I kind of harped on was that, you have the support system that you have in place. Your spouse, like, if I have to just go with the drop of the hat, he knows, and he's got the kids and I'm gone. If something comes up and you have to deal with it right then, or you're in the middle of supper and you have to answer your phone, well, that's all part of it. Like, that's just, you're self-employed. You have to. We plan our trips away around when it's going to be busier and when we're going to be available and when, they're going to be around to pick up the slack if I'm not there. And I think as long as you have the systems and the support systems in place and everybody's on the same page, then you're fine. It's obviously a struggle when you have a younger family and little kids, but as long as your spouse or your partner is on board and, they're okay to take everything over if you have to leave a soccer game or whatever, then, you go get what you have to get done and then you go back, right? So.
Yeah, and that's why it's great now to have the 3 of us. Like, Catherine had her last baby, and within 2 hours, she's in the room writing contracts for me
In the hospital.
because we had 2 different groups in town and she went early and
I brought my
so
laptop.
I'm on the phone between each showing saying, okay, you need to do an offer for this person. And then the nurse comes in like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm writing contracts. You do what you got to do, right? It's just
Right.
one of those things. You do what you got to do in this business, whether we've gone and cleaned fridges, we've gone and swept garages. Whatever you need to get to that closing line that day, you do.
And poor Shannon went and spent days at my house with the baby while I had to work, because no maternity leave, you're self-employed, right? So
Right.
you do what you got to do.
Yeah. And I think like in dealing with you two, and again, we haven't dealt with each other much yet, but it's usually if I send you a text, it's kind of like text goes, oh, text is back.
Mhm.
And I heard you say this before, it's a now business.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you don't leave a lot on the back burner waiting to be dealt with.
We can't. No.
Yeah. And clients don't like that either. Like I just sold a house and it was an elderly lady and she said, I just appreciate how quickly you got back to me every time I had a question. It's like, well, that's my job, right? And I think that's a problem in a lot of different places, especially now. You know yourself, if you're calling somewhere, you need something, you need help, people get frustrated, right? So I know all 3 of us, like if someone asks me a question, I'm going to answer your question right away.
Yeah. And you have to know your client, right? We had a gentleman last week. We had to take him out of the house during showings, just took him out for breakfast or dinner or supper. And while we had groups of showings, because he was older and know your client and know what their needs are. Like there's no way we could keep texting that gentleman for showings. It was a phone call, right? So it's to know your client and know your, just to make the process as comfortable and easy for them as possible. That's all our goal, right? We left Sunday night, that particular gentleman, and we took all the garbage out of his garage and carried it to the street for him, just so he wouldn't have to do it for garbage day on
And I
Monday.
fixed his phone and his computer when I was there too.
You just
Right.
It's more about people, right?
Yeah.
It's not about that check at the end of the day. It's a big decision when people decide to sell and move, and they uproot their lives to move in different provinces, different places, whether they're moving here. So we just try to make that process as easy as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, there is this collaborative nature I find on your team, but then also throughout the Remax Charlottetown and throughout the industry in general that I've seen in so many ways. Like I find Catherine, I'll have a question and I'll pop it in your office. Like, Catherine, can I ask you another question? And it's you usually have a quick answer for me, or you send me to Kris or to Shannon to get something, get some information. But I mean, technically there's no reason for you to do that for me, but you just always seem to be very collaborative like that. Where does that come from? Why do you do that? Why is it like that?
I think, well, and I said this, to any new agent, I always say this, and I believe I said the same thing to you, is that, I'm always a phone call away, and no question is a stupid question. I'd sooner you take 5 minutes of my time and ask me a question than you to make a mistake and have to pay for it. And then it can end up being money out of your pocket too. One of my first deals, I paid the HST on my own commission because I didn't want to call and ask a question. Do you know what I mean? So like, if you take the couple minutes to ask a question, get your answer, and 9 times out of 10, any agent at least certainly on the island, you could ask them a question and they'll answer. It takes the time, but you can prevent mistakes and learn things as you go too, right? So yeah. And I never view it as, you're helping your competition or anything. It was like, no, just be kind and answer someone's questions and help. Like there's no reason not to.
We seem to be the agents that, like listing agents, that how many first time sales have we done with new agents, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of saying, okay, now
you gotta walk
we need
the new
to
agent
counterback
through
or
it
whatever.
too.
And that's great. I love doing that because I was in that that position one day, right? But as far as like Remax, I just feel we're a family. There's no office you couldn't stick your head in at Remax and someone wouldn't answer a question on any given day. Like it's like a little family. Mary Jane has created a great atmosphere there, and it's just we're all together in it. Just at the end of the day, what do you want to do? You want to go see your family, spend time, and do what's best for you. But Remax office is great like that.
Yeah, it's a great workplace. It really is. It's funny because you think like, if you would think on the surface this would be like MJ would be watching this and be like, oh yeah, big win, but she'd just be like, okay, is everybody happy? It's good. She would,
Everyone's happy, she's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this. I'm sure you each have your own answers to this, but what made you get into this? Like, what made you want to get into this line of work? Like, maybe I'll start with you, Kelly. Prior to doing this, you were doing marketing and PR work for DME, right? Like way back,
way back.
Yeah, I think it was 2003 you stopped there, right?
Yeah.
So what drove that move?
Logistics, really. Like, that was an amazing job. We sold all the brewing equipment for like the craft brewing, like Gahan, those types of big breweries. But at that time, they weren't legal in Canada, so it was all across the U.S.
Oh, okay.
So that was when the craft beer industry really started. And so I traveled all the time. Like, every month I was like New York, Seattle, everywhere drinking beer. It was the best job I've ever had other than real estate. But then I had my children. So that lifestyle and that career, I couldn't do that anymore, right? Obviously, with little kids at home, I couldn't travel. So then my mother-in-law, Charlotte, she started selling real estate, and that was her first job she ever had. And she was, I think, 60 when she got her license.
Oh, really?
Because she was she was a stay-at-home mom. So she couldn't do anything on the computer side of things. So Kelly, I was on maternity leave. Can you help me do this? Can you help me with my listing? So that's kind of how I started helping her. And then after about a year, being her behind-the-scenes helper, then I got my license.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And were you full-time right away, or did you have a transition period?
When I started, my kids were a little bit younger than yours. Like, my youngest was only 2. So it was definitely a juggle with the kids. So, like, I don't know if it was full-time at the time, but,
But you weren't working another job at the time when you started?
No, exactly. Yeah, no, I left that other job that I had, and then I did go to that.
How about you, Kris? Because, I mean, you had this career in the construction business. Yeah.
I've always loved business, as you guys know, I'm involved in a couple other businesses as well. But yeah, I love business. Every day is a new day. It's a new situation. It's a new problem. And that's what business is, right? So that's what I love about this business. The people, the stories, it's a great fit for me, It just suits my personality. It suits the way I want to work.
What made you wait so long between when you first got licensed and when you got licensed again?
Children, bills.
Yeah. Because in that, it sounds like you kind of had an interest in it the whole way through.
Yeah, and I was buying apartment buildings and doing different things in that whole span of the 30 years in between the 2 times I wrote my license.
Right.
Yeah, no, definitely. And helped all my buddies in that buy different things. But it was hard, right? We have a couple of kids in university and the bills and everything else, and the timing just wasn't right. You know? And it's like when everyone says to me, when should I sell my home? When you're ready. It doesn't matter if it's January, it doesn't matter if it's August, it's when you're ready to sell, right? So the timing just wasn't there. But it was when, 8 years ago, and we took advantage of it, and luckily the market just kind of went up then in 16 when I went 15, 16 is when the market really started taking off in Charlottetown.
You wish you started earlier?
I don't know if we were ready for it, on the island at that point with everything. I know they want the population to grow, for another 18,000 people now in the next couple of years. So I just hope we have I'm a big pieces of the puzzle, all the components with schools and hospitals and everything in place. I do think we will hit 200,000 before too long. People think the market is crashing sometimes. No, we're just, luckily enough, PEI is the only province in Canada that we've still gone up 3% this year, right? Where a lot of other provinces dropped. So let's ride that wave, and if it does drop, then we'll deal with it. But right now, let's keep the wave going.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the market a little bit, but Catherine, how about you? I mean, obviously your dad was in the business. What made you want to do it? Because,
Yeah, I always had an interest in business. I have a business degree. I grew up watching him, buy and sell things and have rentals and businesses and everything. So I was working in insurance, and then I was on maternity leave with my son, and he had just gotten licensed and was at Remax. Said, I think you'd be good at this. Like, just go write your license and see, and just give it a try. So I did, and then I was going to kind of do a little bit of a trial, and then trial never ended. So
Here you are.
Here I am.
Here you are.
How many years later?
7.
7.
Right. So not just pretty much right after you started doing it. So you've been
Yeah.
a team for a long time, like the whole way through.
He was not very techy. He wouldn't even know what a PDF was, wouldn't anything. So I remember I was pregnant and I was sitting in the office, the little narrow office in the hallway with my belly out here trying to put his ads on Kijiji because he didn't know how. And no, he's doing now. They're getting better with PDFs and everything and paperwork. He's getting there.
I can copy and paste now.
We keep him in check.
Nice. You still, I noticed that you still have your sketchbook. And
I still have my day timer.
Yeah.
I will have my day timer as long as my heart's beating. I'm an ink and paper day timer person because as soon as I get up, or the night before I go to bed, just part of that being organized, right? For walkthroughs and everything, I'll always have my day timer.
That's nice too, because like one of the challenges I have is I'll go into to look at my calendar and it's like, whoa, I'm on Instagram again. So it removes that distraction a little bit, which is nice.
No Instagram in my day timer.
No Instagram in my day timer. Yeah, whatever that happens, we'll look out. I have so many questions, and I know we're not going to have enough time to get through all this, but maybe just like a couple questions about We Know PEI, the business. I mean, there's a couple things, and you can kind of take this wherever you want, but there's a big relocation component to what you're doing. There is, I know that you work in a lot of new construction. You work with a lot of builders. Kelly, I know that you do a lot of listings in Brighton and a lot of high-end listings. And so this is maybe a multi-part question and you can answer however you want, but maybe you could talk about the We Know PEI business, brand, maybe those 3 different areas or any different areas you want to talk about. Broad question, but if something's jumping into your mind, Kris, I know something's jumping into your mind.
No, just thinking, Kelly, you can start if you.
Yeah. So one, like those things that you just said. So if you called us as a vendor and we would go to a listing appointment, and you can say, what's your area of expertise? And we can say first-time buyers, young families, retirees, new construction, luxury properties, relocation specialists, downsizing. So that's kind of...
be very legitimate
exactly.
in answering
and
that.
we can show you our history with all of these sales. So to me, that's a really powerful thing. And I did tell Kris, last summer, I think I was driving up to Inlet Bay Fortune to go to the fireworks feast.
Okay.
And a couple of times on the way, I saw the We Know PEI signs. And I thought, I really like that. That's so cool. And I like that. And it just kind of stuck with me. So we're going to just work on that brand. And I mean, I think we can really focus on that. And it'll be good for the business.
Yeah.
We're just in the process of also redoing our website and some marketing ideas and things like that. And it's like Kelly knows PEI, Kris knows PEI, Catherine knows PEI. So that's kind of, we have some exciting things coming up that we're looking forward to going public with. And it's going to be some exciting times coming ahead. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. It's a new unveils coming.
Yeah, it's just the polishing touches on what we started, and you get into the We Know PEI, and then but now we've really created nice riders and different things like that, and
more of a universal branding kind of across the board.
Exactly,
for everything.
that suits all of us. So we're all pumped about that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, the relocation side I find pretty interesting, because if you're dealing with and I know that you have relationships with a lot of the top realtors in the country for sure, and you kind of, so you're involved with a lot of so say if you have these close relationships with all these people in all these different markets, these top Remax agents in all these different places, they're sending people down here, then you have this flow of buyers potentially. So then if you have listings, you have higher potential of being able to find the right buyers for them. And I can see that all kind of coming together in a really powerful ecosystem. And maybe I'm answering this question for you, but how does that play into your business? And you're sending people, so when you sell someone's house here and they're relocating, moving somewhere else, you have a network of people that you work with to make sure that they're kind of set up wherever they go. Is there anything you want to add to that? Or?
once again, it's taking care of your clients. So you're doing that extra step, right?
Mhm.
So, oh, you're moving to Kelowna. Great. I have a couple of friends that sell real estate in Kelowna. I know they will take care of you. I'm in a referral group with them. We meet every month online for our meetings. And then I just was spent 3 days in Vaughan, Ontario with my Cross Canada referral group.
Mhm.
And you know, you're coming up with ideas. And the great thing about being in a regional referral group is whatever's working for them in their different markets, right? They share, and I share what's working in my market, right? So it's territorial. You know, we're the PEI representatives for these groups, and it works out really good. You know, so we take their ideas and I try them here, and they try, you know, our ideas, you know, for marketing and advertising and how you take care of your clients. So one thing I can assure people is when I refer them to someone, they will be taken care of.
Yeah, and I had just to bring this idea home of like helping people find a great realtor, even if it isn't you. I had this so these buyers, and I won't say who they are or anything, or even where they're from, or even the name of the brokerage they're working with to sell their place, which they need to sell in order to make the acquisition here. The name itself basically says that it's a discount brokerage. It's named after that basically. And then I was, you know, talking with them and hearing about kind of their relationship with their realtor, who may be a good realtor, but is a very hands-off kind of situation. And I feel them floundering out there, and I'm like, like if it was someone from my office who I know who is working with you, your situation would be so much better right now. And I just want to be able to just say, like, go with this person. They will help you so much more. That must be nice. And that is something that makes me aspire to want to kind of develop those sorts of relationships in these different places, because you can see people having dramatically different results based on these situations. And maybe flowing off of this actually is what makes a good realtor, because I do sometimes, there is this, I would say almost, well, I would say strongly a misconception that everybody's the same. And I really don't find that to be the case. But I don't know if you want to talk to what makes a great realtor in a way that someone, say, choosing between realtors when they're deciding who to list their property or who to buy with, to help them make a good decision. You know, even if that's not you, even if that's just whoever. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What makes a good realtor?
I think a lot of it has to do with how you get along with somebody, right? Like your personal dynamic. Like you can go on a listing appointment and know right away you guys click, it's all good. And sometimes you don't, and that's fine. Like sometimes different personalities work with different people. But to be a good realtor, I think you really have to be committed and you have to take care of the client. That's the number one thing. Like, you know, you got to look out for them, and you know, that's why you're there, to protect their interest and do what's best for them no matter what.
Right. And when you say committed, I mean, I see some of your listings come up. They look really sharp, right? I mean, like, I've seen you use beautiful staging. I've seen you all use beautiful staging. Good photos, video. There's like qualitative differences here as well. But to you, that is the point. Above all of that, that is the point that you want to make of kind of being attentive to them and understanding them and working and caring.
Yeah.
I think for anyone picking a realtor too, it's a relationship, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, some questions that people never ask, you know, I guess is, you know, does that realtor have a website? You know, are they going to come in and take cell phone pictures? Or are they going to get a professional photographer to come in? There's just so many questions, you know, what resources do they have to help that client? So I think when people pick a realtor, I think they're very important questions to, you know, they should interview a couple of people and feel it's like working at a brokerage. We're comfortable at Remax with MJ, but would I be comfortable at XYZ Realty? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah,
so it's just back to that relationship, and it's not a bad thing.
Right.
If you don't click with the person you interview, you know, we don't take every listing on that we go to if the expectation is too great or something, and same with probably other people, you know, just there's someone else that might suit them, and that's okay. You know.
Yeah. What about you, Catherine? What makes a good realtor in your view?
I think just I think answering your phone, like just answer your phone and get back to people, you know. You can't, and we always talk about instant gratification, and you know, when your listings on realtor.ca and an inquiry comes in, well, if you answer them in 5 hours, like they're not, you know, they've probably moved on.
Right.
You know, like
right.
you have a very small window to get back to people, and yeah, as annoying as this, if you're in the middle of Sobeys and something comes in, well, you have to get back to people. You can't, you know, you can't just not.
So you'll park your shopping cart and just take a minute.
Yeah, because you have
Usually
to.
It doesn't take long.
No, because you know, well, hi, how are you? Absolutely. Are you working with a realtor? If not, I'd be happy to show you the property. What questions do you have? Right? Like just getting back to people and answering your phone can make such a difference, because in the run of the day, the amount of times that we hear, you know, oh wow, well, thanks for calling me back, or oh wow, thanks for answering so quickly. You know, you don't realize that that's a lot of people
not the
don't.
norm.
Yeah, so it's not the normal thing.
I wish I knew how many times you get a call and someone says, "Thank you for answering your phone. You're the 5th person I've tried, and you're the first voice I've heard."
Yeah.
You know, so answer your phone.
Yeah. Okay.
No, there's times you can't, but
Get back to people, though.
to get
right?
back to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got to keep a bit of an eye on time here, but a couple sort of market related questions. I mean, you know, Bank of Canada just bumped up 25 basis points, you know, 0.25%. What do you see happening with the market? What do you see happening with interest rates, say over the coming months, say over the coming years? Do you have any opinions about where you think things are going?
I was at a Remax conference in Quebec City in the fall, and the CEO for then Tal came in from CIBC, and I believe someone from the Bank of Canada. And every prediction is that we've kind of peaked. I know we just went up another little point there, and the States said they're going up as well. But all the predictions is we're going to level off and then kind of come back a little bit. Really, you know, I mean, when my wife and I bought our first house, we were 13 3/4, right?
Okay, yeah.
So
this must have been the 80s, eh?
It was in the late 80s. But now, you know, we are at, you know, 6.5, 7, depending if you're refinancing, you know, depending what product you're taking. But I think they will level out. You know, you have to keep people in line of, okay, they're still not that bad compared to the way they were, but they will come down. So keep your mortgage open for, you know, a year or two, or just lock in for 2 years, and then I truly feel it will get better.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems my gut is saying the same thing in terms of where interest rates will go. Have we reached the peak now with this latest one? Maybe. Maybe. Because there's such a delay to when these things come in.
And that's the thing, they have to keep them up, right, for a bit, just to stop
inflation,
you know,
running away,
kind of almost take you into a little recession. And then, because if not, this is all for nothing, right?
Yeah.
If they don't keep them at that point till the end of the year, the way the guy from CIBC explained it, all the Remax agents.
And what have you been seeing for home prices on PEI? I mean, I see different things, and I find it hard, like the kind of general market information, sort of hard to assess, because you don't know if it's the same types of homes and stuff that are selling. You know, April was the first month that I saw it down a little bit. I don't think I saw the May report yet, but it was only down a very, like 6% or something like that in terms of the average price. But
I think the May came out yesterday and it's up again.
Oh, it's up again.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. So, like I think we all can agree. A couple of listings we've both had in the 300,000 to 400,000 range in PEI. Many buyers are looking. So, like the last one I did, I had like 28 showings in 2 days and 10 offers at 350. And you guys on your Stratford one, multiple offers right away. So there are a lot of buyers out there that are still definitely like first-time buyers, young people. So,
and what about for the higher end listings?
It hasn't gone down any. They've pretty much stayed level. So those tend to take a little bit longer to sell, just because there's not as many buyers in that price range. But I don't think it's going down any at all in PEI. I mean, it might level off a little bit. It can't keep going up as fast as it did, but I think it's going to stabilize a little bit.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? When you're dealing with these higher end listings, say $1 million plus valued homes on PEI, which I know in Vancouver, Toronto isn't like super high end, but that's a big price in PEI. When you're dealing with that, and with a lot of, say, we'll say average price houses, that initial wave of buyers can be so important if you're the listing agent, to try and when I feel like right when it's listed is right when the interest is highest. So it's really nice to capitalize on that if you can. But knowing that the time on market tends to be longer for higher end listings and probably for new construction too, I'd say. But can you tell me a little bit about the kind of like the psychology of the buyer in a way? Because there wouldn't necessarily be that same sense of urgency as you would get, say, if you're competing. Like you said, if you've got 10 people competing over one property, well, the person's like, well, I better put in an offer or I'm definitely not getting it. Versus like, say, if something's been on the market for a few months and you expect it to be so because it's higher end, how do you make sure that for your sellers you're getting the best offer? If you want to just talk about the psychology of that, if that makes sense.
I mean, it is a little different for sure. So I guess every situation is different. I've sold a lot in the last couple of years to people relocating from out of province. And so if you're coming from Ontario or BC, then like $1 million is not outrageous to them, right? So the process is kind of pretty much the same as it would be for a smaller house. But like, I think my vendors are usually prepared when we do a listing in that price range. They know it's going to take a little while because the right person has to come along, but I don't think it's too much different really.
Okay, right.
It is about the prep work, just like Kelly said. You tell them this is how many sales we've had between $1 million and 1.2 in the last 6 months, in the Charlottetown area. So, and this is how much we have active right now. So it's preparing them.
Right.
400 and under right now definitely seems to be that sweet point.
Yeah.
For multiple offers again, which is kind of nice to see the multiple offers again.
Yeah. So I mean, when you have something that's been on the market a little bit longer, though, how do you fend off the lowball offers, and how do you kind of retain that kind of strength in pricing?
We do different things like staging, different marketing. You just take a different approach. It depends their level of urgency too, right? If someone's relocating to wherever and they have to be there by a certain date, you just take different measures to try to get that property marketed right and try to find the right buyer for them at that time. Right?
Yeah, and I always make sure I have comparables too. They say, oh, your house is at 1.1 million. Where'd you come up with that price? And I'll have a list of this is why this house, this neighborhood, that's why it's that price.
Right.
And then the buyers can either offer or not. You know what I mean? They can, you can easily appraise the value of what you're asking for the house based on comparable sales.
Right. So this is a real price. This isn't just some inflated thing that someone's just slapping on.
Right.
These are examples of other things that have sold, comparables. And is that information that you would say if the buyer wasn't coming through you, but from a different buyer's agent, you provide to the buyer's agent from time to time?
I could, yeah.
If they
asked or if they needed it, yeah.
And they would be
have access to
managing
that
their
too.
own relationships with those people anyway.
I think it depends on the experience of the buyer's agent. Sometimes they're like, where did you come up with this price?
Yes.
Just I can do it. And you send them, the comps and then they're like, yeah, you're right. This is what this is worth.
It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Great. And then, we're kind of covering this a bit already, but just to ask specifically for you, Kelly, why do you think it is that people trust you with higher end listing?
Well, I said to Mary Jane when I started working there that like probably 70% of my listings are within walking distance of my house. So it is definitely your local person who people recognize. So it's my community, right? Like a lot of those houses that I sell there are people that my mother-in-law and father-in-law grew up, raised their family there. So in the Brighton area specifically, I think that's why a lot of people know I live there. I've raised my kids there. And then some of the other ones I know, it definitely has down to like how I package my listings. People, I can show them my listings and they're always staged and professional. So it gives people a comfort. If you look at what I've sold in the past, like I do have a history of that. So I think that experience is a comfortable thing for people too.
Right. Wonderful. And why do you think builders choose you, Kris?
I think it's my old comfort zone, right? Because I was on construction sites for 30 years. So I understand the whole process, right? I'm also on planning with the city. So I understand, you need to get a drainage plan. You need to get building permits. You need to get this. You need to get that before you even can start a build, right?
Right.
So I do understand the whole process. I understand everything. If somebody builds a semi, well, we have to have a party wall agreement at the end. We have to have occupancy permits. We have to have, final drainage plans. So it's just a comfort zone for me. I know a lot of people in that industry, and I think they put their faith in me that I do know that, and I'll help them through, the whole process of that, and holdbacks. Of course, this time of year we're closing stuff and there's still no pavement, still no lawns, right? So it's just a little bit of everything from holdbacks, and to even make your buyers feel comfortable. Okay, we are going to keep $3,000 at the lawyers till the lawn goes in. We're going to keep $5,000 till the paving goes down, right? So it's just once again gelling and working with people.
So say if you got somebody who buys like a nice lot, say in East Royalty, and they have, kind of enough budget, this construction company, to build one place right now. This may be too broad a question, but what kind of like trends do you see and what do you, let's say if somebody called you today, one of your clients, one of your builders, and said, what do you think I should build right now? Do you have an answer for that?
Semis have been very hot in the last few years. As prices have been escalating, semis are very hot. Even some people that were moving here and they just didn't find the right home for them. I'm like, why don't you think about grabbing a semi, right? Just living there for a year and then keep it for an investment, in your portfolio, and rent it out down the road or anything like that. So I give people options. Yesterday I showed a big home, wasn't quite the fit for them. And believe it or not, we went from a $750,000 home to a $399 brand new semi. And just to give them another option, because there was nothing else they looked for in a big home right now to suit their needs. So they're like, we didn't even think of this. So that'll allow them to come to PEI for the summer, get a taste of the summer, and we can look at homes after they move here. They have rentals in Ontario, so like they said, why wouldn't we have a rental here too? So you just have to give people options. Right.
So semi, potentially. What about like, in terms of like decor and things like that, that's kind of always changing, and the the trends, and seems to be the main thing that people are doing is, okay, make it neutral, lots of white, make it like a blank canvas so the buyer can get in. Is there any kind of like style or decor or paint or finishing tips that you'd have for anybody? And this could maybe I'll throw to you, Catherine. Right now when people are asking?
Yeah, so I always go with, Benjamin Moore always does a great job when they pick their top paints every year. So, something neutral, something light. Is like if you're trying to be trendy and on with what's happening, like it needs to be light, neutral, oaks, warm tones, So yeah, you just kind of, you see what's more popular, and if someone walks into something that's light and neutral, and the white cabinets with a nice granite countertop and a beautiful white backsplash, and then you see they walk into something and everything, is cohesive and meshed and looks good. Then like, wow, this is beautiful.
This is beautiful. Yeah, and I do definitely notice that with like fixtures. Actually, we were in one place together, and like, oh, it'd be nice if these boob lights or whatever were the
boob lights in
like,
2023.
You're like, these are so easy to swap out, but whatever. But people can see through that.
Yeah.
That's another thing, like we talked about the other day. You have to give your clients those options. Like if they're so focused on those light fixtures, you know what? $1,000 will change this puppy in no time.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I want to ask so many more questions, but I feel like we should wrap up soon here. But there's so many things to ask. But one more. This is just for me. And this may be an impossible thing, but how can a listing agent? How can they increase the demand for a property, and potentially can they create or encourage like a buying frenzy? Like if you're working for your seller trying to get the most interest, what can you do? Any answer to that?
So like depending on the price point, obviously, right? Yeah. So I think you can stage it for sure. We usually do that. And then this is kind of like a couple of years ago, there was always that window, showings from Wednesday to Saturday, look at offers on Sunday. That is coming back a little bit now in that price point. So recently I did that, and I think you guys have done that a few times too. So that way you get as many people as you can in through, you know what I mean? Instead of like
getting
months
one
ago.
offer and the other people are coming 3 days later and you have to
Right.
make a decision beforehand.
Because like 6 months ago, we would say offers within leave open for 24 hours.
Mhm.
But I think it is beneficial right now in that price range to leave it open for 3 or 4 days, get as many as you can, and then take offers after that.
What happens if someone puts in a bully offer in that time period?
It's the vendor's choice.
Mhm.
It's always their
You have
choice.
to let
You're-
them.
You're obligated. You're
Yeah.
obligated to present anything you get, and
Yeah.
and that's like the one we had last weekend. Well, what if we offer today? I said, well, you're more than welcome, but I don't know what they're gonna say.
Yeah.
I only advise them. We'll present it. We'll see what they say.
Mhm.
Is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I do know that there's 7 showings booked tomorrow, so
And they know
my
that,
inkling is that they're probably not gonna want to look at anything, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
It leaves a bad taste in other realtors' mouth, though. If you do say, I'm doing showings till Friday,
Yeah, and they don't respect that.
right, like I would hate to do that. I mean, the offer, if the seller got an offer that was absolutely, he really wanted to take it, that's his choice, and there's nothing you can do, but it's preferable not to put it out there.
As you know, under instructions, we say, offers Sunday night at 6 o'clock being presented. And a lot of times we just had a situation the weekend. It's because then people were driving to Ontario, right? So they were not in a position that they could have talked to us before then.
Mhm.
So, but they knew they would be at their location, with internet and stuff like that on Sunday night. So it
Right.
worked out good. We presented 6 offers, and like Kelly says, if it's priced right, and you go in, just the one we did on the weekend. We went in, they purged, they done everything that Catherine asked them to do. The house was ready to go. So, and we priced it right. So they'll sell.
Right. Anything that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about? I know I kind of wanted to talk about the Oyster Bed Speedway because I find that really interesting. But it's, being a real
Be here
estate
for another
podcast, we
hour.
haven't gotten to it. I know, and I promised you a certain end time. Also, you have a motel as well, and there'd be things. But broadly speaking, is there anything we didn't talk about that you'd like to bring up? We talked about Shannon, which is great.
I think let's just touch base on Oyster Bed Speedway for a minute.
Yeah, all right, here we go. Here, let's do it.
Not that I'm biased.
Let's get in there.
The only oval track in PEI. No. Anyway, it's another part of my life that I did forever. I've always been a car person. I started racing cars when I was 17, right? So when the opportunity came to buy into it, I do it. It's like 11 Saturday nights of summer. But when you become an agent, you go to your circle, right?
Yeah.
Kelly's circle is Brighton and the kids and stuff like that. Catherine's is now, soccer, Sherwood School, all her kids. Mine is race cars, racing people, car people, construction people,
Right.
So that's my circle. So that's why we cover so many different areas of PEI, right? But I think when you're a realtor, you have to work your circle, right? So my circle, I've sold so many properties to race car people, to car people, to, I've sold their properties. They've bought properties through me. So that's my circle, construction and racing. So it's also my passion. So on Saturday nights, you'll find me out there, and there's been nights that we've gotten there, and
just you, me and Shannon and I are there too.
yeah, the whole team works there. We haven't got Kelly out there yet, but hopefully we'll get her out there with something. Kelly's like, no. But you'll get there, and a couple offers will come in on a property on a Saturday night, and then you're like, okay, so Catherine, I'll jump in an office, shut the door where it's quiet, and phone the people and go over the offers and let them think about it for the night or whatever we have to do. But we have internet, we're connected, so wherever we're at, it doesn't matter if you're in Sobeys parking lot. You talk to your people, and
Yeah.
and so that is just a passion I've had that's turned into a business, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the audience out there too, I mean, if you want some entertainment, Oyster Bed Speedway, there's races happening there. So
OysterBedSpeedway.com.
.com. Yeah, check it out for sure. Anything else anyone wants to bring up?
I think so.
That's great. What's the
No.
best way for people to get a hold of you?
I think we'll let Catherine answer this. She's the young techie person.
I find email or text the most efficient. Now I know you'd say call, but that's just age differences. But yeah, really any method. We answer all methods: Instagram, Facebook, everything.
We
the
know
new website.
New
will be
website,
up
yeah.
soonish,
Yeah.
hopefully.
is
and
it WeKnowPEI.com?
It is,
yeah.
yeah.
The old website is there now, so
Yeah.
it's in
Being redone.
behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and it's really nice and clean, and that will be really easy to find us. So
Yeah.
hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'll link to that in the show notes and in the description and YouTube. So thank you all so much for coming on here. And good luck with We Know PEI. I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Thank you.
We're ready to go with it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Great.